So it says in Revelation chapter 19, verse 1, chapter 11, verse 7, chapter 17, and verse 18. I was a paratrooper in World War II. I did not make any jumps. I was kicked out of the airplanes 19 times. Somebody asked me one time, said, how many night jumps did you make? I said, all my jumps were night jumps. My eyes were shut every time I jumped. Back in those days, we jumped from what's now called DC-3. Those days, it was called C-46 or C-47. 18 men would jump out of the same plane, 9 sitting on one side, 9 on the other side, facing each other. We'd get up in the plane. We'd have a parachute on our back with a static line, a big, looked like a belt, big wide belt on the back, 15 feet long, folded up. And there was a big cable down the middle of the airplane, and we'd get up and hook that static line on that cable. We'd jump out and fall 15 feet, and the cable would pull the parachute open for us. We didn't have to pull the ripcord on the first chute. Now, if that didn't open, there was a reserve chute here on the front. And you pull the ripcord. You'd jump out, you'd count 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and if you counted 4,000, that means the chute wasn't open. And you pull the ripcord and the reserve open. And if that didn't work, then they were so thoughtful. They had a little red truck down there at the bottom, and they'll haul you off. Every provision for our every need. And so we'd get in the airplane. 9 fellows over here, 9 over here on this side. And the sergeant would say, stand up and hook up. We'd all turn toward the rear of the plane like this. The door over here on this side, turn toward the rear of the plane and take that static line and put the hook on the cable going down to the middle of the airplane. And the sergeant would say, check equipment. And you would check the parachute of the fellow in front of you. And you would look to the fellow in back of you and say, we're buddies, aren't we? And so I'd check the equipment of this fellow, and the fellow back here checked my equipment. And the sergeant would say, count off! Count off! And the back fellow would say, 18 okay, 17 okay, 16 okay, 15 okay, 14 okay, 13 okay, 12 okay, 11 okay. I was number 10. 10 okay. 9 okay, 8 okay, 7 okay, 6 okay, 5 okay, 4 okay, 3 okay, 2 okay, 1 okay. And the sergeant would say, stand in the door. The first fella would come to the door like this, put his hands out just outside the door, put the ball of his left foot on the edge of the exit, and look toward the horizon. Never look down. If you look down, you wouldn't feel led to go out. You'd always look out like this to the horizon. And the sergeant, there you are now, ready to jump. There you are. And then the sergeant would ask the dumbest question ever asked to human beings. He would say, is everybody happy? Can you imagine that? There you are, 1,200 feet from the ground, nothing but a folded up skirt on your back, about to jump out into space, and that crazy fool says, is everybody happy? The stupidity of the question was only exceeded by the stupidity of the answer. Well, the answer was, yes! And the sergeant would say, ready? Jump! Put your arm around the reserve chute. You jump like this, keeping your feet and knees together, turning to a 45-degree angle, keep your chin against your chest. You'd count 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. On my 5th jump, I went through all of that ritual, ordeal. I jumped and counted 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5. I forgot to bring my skirt. I had a streamer. A streamer is when the lines, suspension lines, wrap around the silk of that parachute. And the parachute comes out of the case, but the wind can't get up in there. And because of that, the parachute does not open and does not break your fall. I counted to 7,000. I was jumped from 800 feet. You fall 100 feet a second. I counted to 7,000. When my reserve chute finally opened, I was 1 second from death. I'll never forget how it felt to fall. You never knew what was up and what was down. You never knew which way you were. Falling, twisting. And hell is like that. Hell is burning. Hell is separation. But hell is lasting. But hell is also falling and twisting and turning forever and ever and ever. one day, General James Gavin, who later became the ambassador of France, was our commanding general. We called him Gentleman Jim Gavin. He came and made an announcement to all the troops that we had to, that the Mexican consul was coming, and he was going to review the 82nd Airborne Division, of which I was a member. I was a member also of the Parachute Maintenance Company. We packed the parachutes for all the 10,000 men of the division, 270 of us men. Captain Fuller told us, who were riggers we called them, parachute packers, he told us we had to pack 10,000 parachutes to be used in one day. We worked day and night. Day and night we worked, packing chutes. Each man has a table about as far from here to that PA system, maybe farther. And you hook the end of the chute down here, and you hook the bottom end down here, and the top of the silk down here, and you get all the lines unjumbled, and then you fold the panels in the skirt of the parachute together like this, and gently fold it up, and pack the parachute. Now, on the inside of the parachute, there's a little pocket about like that, and in that pocket there's what they call a log book. And when you finish packing the parachute, you take your pencil or pen, and you write the date in that little, to pull it out like this, write your name and the date you packed it, and you put it back in the parachute, so there's a faulty chute, they'll know whose fault it was. 10,000 chutes we packed. A fellow named Collingsworth was packed on this side of me, and a fellow named Alley from Ohio. Collingsworth was from Pennsylvania. And I packed here, Collingsworth packed here, and Alley packed here. The day of the jump, being riggers, we went out to the field and we jumped first, because we had to be there to get all the rest of the parachutes when the rest of the division jumped. Collingsworth and I were standing watching the folks jump. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and looked like a mighty army, like a solid cloud of white silk coming down over Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We're watching them. Look! Collingsworth! Look, Collingsworth! Look! The fellow came out and had a streamer. He began to reach. We watched him as he reached for his reserve chute and couldn't find the ripcord. He began to dig inside. And the thing is that thick, solidly packed. He dug with his fingernails all the way through that thing and into his stomach, and he had his stomach in his hand, a part of it clawed in his hand when we finally found him. Collingsworth and I watched that man. We stood stunned watching that man as he fell to his death. We ran as quickly as we could across the field to where his body lay. We got there. General Gavin was there. He'd gotten in a jeep and he was already there. I snapped to attention. General Gavin, Private Jack Hiles, 386-406-79, Parachute Maintenance Company. We packed the chutes, and Collingsworth said, Private Collingsworth, Parachute Maintenance Company, and gave his serial number. And I said, sir, would you mind opening the logbook and see whose name is in the logbook? General Gavin reached out and stirred that body like he'd stir a bowl of stew with his feet, and lifted the parachute. You push a thing like that and the parachute flies open. Lifted the bloody parachute off his body and opened the inside and pulled that little slip out of the logbook, and he read the name, Collingsworth. When he said that, Collingsworth jumped as high as a young man could jump, and he began to cry, "Oh my God! Oh my God! I wish I'd been more careful! Oh my God! I wish I'd been more careful! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! I wish I'd been more careful!" Ran across the field. We tried to catch him. He ran through the woods and back to the barracks. I went to the barracks and tried to console him, but into the night, 3 and 4 o'clock in the wee hours of the morning, I heard that little 18-year-old boy from Pennsylvania crying, "Oh my God, I killed him! I killed him! Oh my God! Oh God! Oh God, I killed him! I wish I'd been more careful! One of these days, this old life of ours will be over, and we'll stand before our God, and all that's going to matter then, what did we do to keep people out of hell? That's all that's going to matter. Is there a hell? Is there a hell? Is there a place of eternal conscience? I don't want to tell you this, but I have to. My father was a bartender, an alcoholic. By the way, he couldn't even write his name, couldn't read and write. You see, I'm no Cadillac. I'm just an old reconditioned Model T Ford, all I am. But my dad, I wanted to see him saved. New Year's Eve night, 1949. I was pastor of a little country church in East Texas. That morning, I got burdened about my dad. I got in the car and drove 150 miles to Dallas, Texas. I was going to find my dad. I went to the Hunt Saloon where Dad was the bartender. I walked in, my big old dad was sitting there on a stool drinking some beer. Really drunk, or he was drunk. I took my big Schofield reference Bible inside, held it high so folks would know I wasn't there as a customer. I walked up to Dad and put my arm around him and I said, Dad, this is Jack. I'm going to take you back to East Texas tomorrow, Sunday, January 1st, 1950. I'm going to take you back to East Texas. I'm going to preach to you tomorrow. My dad said, he cursed me and hit me back like that. And I said, Dad, you're twice my size, but I'll have a fight with you here in this bar before I'll leave without you. I'm taking you back, Dad. Finally, I drug him out of the tavern, took him down and got him a lot of coffee and tried to sober him up. That night, we had a watch night service. I'll never forget it. We got in the bus, rode around town, sang carols and the gospel songs. And we laughed and had fun like Christians can have. And I looked over at Dad and I said, Dad, did you ever have this much fun in the world on New Year's Eve night? A big tear streamed down his cheek. And he said, son, I never saw anybody have this much fun before. And that's the truth. A dirty devil never gives anybody real fun. So, next morning, I stood in my little country church to preach. I prayed all night long for Daddy. He sat on the fourth row from the front, right over here that morning. I preached to one man. He began to tremble like this. My one-legged deacon chairman, Mr. Eves, put his arm around Dad and said, Abbey House, you ought to be saved. Why don't you get saved? Your boy's a preacher and he's trying to do what's right. You're breaking his heart. Why don't you get saved? He shook his head. That afternoon, Dad and I took a walk out in the pasture of our little country area. I looked up at him and I said, Dad, more than anything in the whole world, I want to see you saved. And my dad said to me, son, he set the music of heaven loose in my soul. He said, I'm going to get saved this spring. I've already made up my mind. I'm going back to Dallas and sell out my little, what little I've got. I'm going to come down and get saved this summer, this spring. That was January 1st, 1950. I said, that's good enough for me. My dad was only 62. I said, Dad, that's good enough for me. I drove him back to Dallas, Texas, on the corner of Bryan Street and Washington Street, 1 block from Dallas Seminary. I let my dad out of the car. I said, Dad, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the spring. The last word he said was, son, I'm going to let you baptize me in the spring. I'm going to let you baptize me in the spring. I didn't know those were the last words he'd ever say. Every time I baptized anybody that spring, I'd picture my dad. I'd picture my dad. The morning of May 12th, I was sitting in my living room at the parsonage, little country church, reading the Dallas Morning News. Long distance, the phone rang. I said, hello. Operator said, long distance calling Reverend Jack Hiles. I said, this is Brother Hiles. A voice said, my name is Smith. I work with your dad, Reverend Hiles. This morning, while hanging drywall in a house, your dad had a heart attack and dropped dead.